The other thing that we've been hearing about a lot this week is how we need to stop imaging and get on to DEP and MDM and all those fancy acronyms that Apple keeps tossing out at us. And Todd is here to talk a little bit about his experience setting up DEP and MDM with AirWatch. At some point, when you want to set up DEP and MDM, guess what? You need an MDM. So you're going to use some product, whether it's an open source product or a commercial product. I think most of what you're talking about can be done with nearly any MDM.
I would assume. It all depends. Is this on? Can you guys
tap the top button and now it's on.
So I assume. I haven't messed with any other MDMs in a long time. I used to be a Jamf guy. All you got to do is, in the way I'm going to show you, you have a master package that starts everything off. As long as you get enrolled into MDM, it should be able to push one package out, which then should be able to do whatever else. Should be pretty straightforward.
Let's see.
With any other MDM. What I've taken advantage of recently with AirWatch is in the, they actually are supporting the install application MDM command now, which is what Eric from Pinterest is doing as well. Do you want me to get mine?
Yeah, because it's giving an error on the zip.
That's fine.
Oh,
get my computer out.
technology.
Mine's a C. You got C stuff?
Yes, we can do C stuff. Hang on one sec. I will get this out of the way. Is it?
So part of the other fun is I decided to get a back issue last week, and so when I'm walking around up here and looking like I'm stiff and sore, it is true, I am. I'm only 50, I'm not 110 like it looks like.
All right, let's see if this syncs up as expected, and what I need to do is just get you an adapter for this.
I can just hit the down arrow on the keyboard.
Wow,
Look at
see,
all kinds of stuff.
That worked.
We got all kinds of stuff
Quickly
popping up.
and easily.
Where is? Ooh. Oh, it all went over to the, yeah, we're not
No,
in mirror mode.
Well, I don't think you want it in mirror. Well,
probably not.
You set it up. Let me go grab this.
Probably not. Give me a second, sorry. There's the old man Kane. So, real quick, I work for Veritas. I started doing Mac stuff around 2006. I had been doing some Linux desktop stuff for Sun. They were going to try and compete with Microsoft in the desktop support space. Oh, look. Okay, which way is this going to go on here? There it is. And the Linux thing fell apart, and somebody said, hey, can you do that same kind of stuff with a Mac? And so I went out and started investigating that and closed the window. What was over there? Oh. See all the screens flopped over there when we... Here, put it in mirror. Probably, just as easy. Oh, look, there's stuff down there I could look at. You can't type any better than I can. Oh, boy, now we're really going to be confused. Okay. No, that's fine. All right. This will get the thing working, he says. So this is the problem with not having a break between the two sessions, I guess. Although a bunch of people left. Whew. Okay.
All right. So I should give you some proper introduction. This is your first time at MacTech conference?
Correct. I went to a daily thing in Denver once.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. And that's how you found out about
applying?
Great. Well, I'm not going to hold you up any longer. Please welcome Todd Ness.
Okay. Thanks. So like I said, I'm just a Unix guy that got asked if Macs can be managed. I worked for EDS at the point. We were trying to win Nike's Mac support contract. You know, their whole IT, but they had 1,500 Macs and nobody inside of EDS knew anything about Macs. So I set up a solution, we showed it, we won, but then 2 weeks later they decided, we'll just keep the vendor we have. So I never got to do Nike's Macs, but I got to do a bunch of other companies. I've done fun things with Bristol-Myers Squibb and Ericsson and Nokia and Universal Music, and so I've done Mac support for a lot of different companies out there around the world. I've traveled all over the world, got to teach local people how to support the Macs after we gave them an image, and teach service desks how to support the images. And if you have remote people and you've got a third-party service desk somewhere, it's worth every penny to fly out there and spend a week with them and make them learn how to use a Mac, because once they did that, I stopped getting bugged all the time. But at any rate, and then so just been going along with imaging. I took imaging classes in 2006, 2007. And when DEP came out, I wanted it. I couldn't get it because I was, none of the Macs that we had were our Macs. It was always some other customer, so I had to get the customer to enroll in DEP, and then they'd be like, well, why would we want to do that? And, the political things inside of corporations multiplied by 4 customers, when you're doing it with 4 customers, it just gets way fun. But I left the EDS, HP, HPE train last year, and I went to Veritas, and we got DEP set up finally, which took a long time, getting all the legal stuff that you have to get approved to get into DEP. So if you're thinking about doing it and you haven't started, start now so that you can get it done sometime in your lifetime. But at any rate, with the other job, I knew that imaging was an issue. I had customers all over the globe in every account that I had. I had remote customers that were never in an office, so we were always trying to make our stuff as modular as possible and as simple as possible on the back end. So basically all I had to do to change from that model was to throw stuff into MDM, into DEP when it came out. So I got a bunch of tools that I use to do this. How many people have seen what IBM does at the JAMP conference where they show the big full screen app? I got that. You do that part in Objective-C Xcode. I use package util package. I'm an old school guy. You can use shell, Perl, Python to write your over commanding script that does everything in the back. I write launch daemons. And I know there's been talks and all these things about how to do some of that stuff in here this week. And then AirWatch recently started supporting the Bootstrap, or what they call the Bootstrap app, which is when an application gets enrolled into MDM, it sends the install application command out. So as soon as it gets enrolled, boom, it sends this package down. If it's a DEP package, it happens right away. If it's a non-DEP machine, half of my machines were bought under the Symantec umbrella before Symantec and Veritas split. So I had to come up with a way to make the non-DEP stuff look like the DEP stuff, and so I only had to write one basic kind of documentation, essentially. I used to use AutoDMG to make a base app, and, target disk mode, throw that on the machine when you're re-imaging for the tech guys, but I'm switching over to an installer based because of all the fun stuff that's coming on. Greg talked about it yesterday afternoon as well. I use system image utility now to make my USB installer. You can use create install media. And then my MDM provider is AirWatch. I assume that there's, I know there's a bunch of others, Intune, Absolute Manage, Komodo, and I only did a few of them on the list, and you can probably use any of those to do this. I don't have functionality on any of them. I've not tested it, so it may be a lot of work. It may be easy. Monkey is a good tool to incorporate in this process, although AirWatch is supposedly incorporating Monkey for me. Greg has announced it, so I don't think I'm going anywhere where it hasn't been announced publicly in this building already this week. Chef is a great tool that you can use with this as well. All you need to do is get your first initial package in there, boom, you push it out. I'm going to learn how to use auto package. Greg showed me that this week. It looks pretty good. Slack's a great place to go ask questions because there's a lot of smart people that will help you willingly. So how did I make my non-DEP behave like DEP? In AirWatch, there's basically an enrollment mobile config that you go out and you download, you save it, and then I package it up. And since I'm using the same USB-based installer, I put a little bit of logic about there. I run the profiles command. Hey, is there a profile installed already? If there is, don't waste your time trying to install one because it's a DEP machine. And if there's not, go ahead and install it. So, you know, I do a little bit of stuff in there, package the cert, and I do a couple other actions for the people that are non-DEP. Before install application started working right, I would push the agent out because we had to have the agent to get it to start doing stuff. And so now with the install, it's kind of duplicated, but it just doesn't happen later because my other process says, oh, look, the AirWatch agent's already there, and it skips it. So last week, Eric at Pinterest pointed out to me, right in the middle of me writing my slides up, that 10.13.2 has some new features that he's got an open radar in there about that it essentially is going to make it at some point where the automated profile-I-F profile isn't going to work that I'm doing because they want to have user-approved profiles. So that's going to be one of those things that'll likely break at that point. You know, do we open up profiles and say, here, approve it, or what's happening? But right now, I tested it. It still does get the profile, and it installs the profile, and everything still kicks off. But it's when you open up profiles to look at it, it has a little button next to it that says approve. Didn't look like it actually really broke it yet, but then again, you know, I had to, bless you, I had to take a 10.3.1 machine, patch it to 10.3.2, or update it to 10.3.2, and then start the process manually, so it's not an out-of-the-box boot experience that I've tested yet, although Frogger told me this morning he figured out how to make a 10.3.2 never booted image, which I might try and test when I get back, but haven't done it yet. So, making a bootable USB drive with SIU. Lots of words on there. Greg showed the pictures for it. You step through. He said, don't choose the check automatically install box. I do that. When I do, and I get to the point where I'm ready to save it, I hit customize. I go in and I add in partition disk as a step, which only sort of works at this point. It worked pretty good with 10.13.0. It would delete whatever kind of file system was on the disk, and then it would re-image it, and you would wind up with an APFS file system. What I'm seeing with 10.13.1 and 10.13.1, I haven't tried with 10.13.2 yet, but it won't erase an APFS container, and so the whole process sort of breaks. So you have to manually go in, delete the existing container, then reboot, and then the process takes off because it's got an HFS base. Also, the thing that changed with 10.13.1 was when it gets done, you wind up with an HFS plus container instead of an APFS container. So they've changed things between 10.13.0 and 10.13.1 already, and 10.13.2 is going to do something different. But basically, it creates it. It creates a netboot folder for you. Then I use Automator, and I create a service that's called bless a netboot folder. So I drag, after I get the folder created, I throw it on a USB stick, I right-click on it, and run the service to bless the netboot creator, and then I save it, and then the USB thumb drive becomes a bootable thing, and the whole process just goes. And I think the next thing in here, make sure your computer has an HFS volume on it now if you're doing 10.13.1. Otherwise it will break. But so now I'm going to show you a video of the setup process. There's going to be the beginning part twice, essentially, before my automated install stuff happens. And I'm not even calling it imaging anymore. I'm just calling it setup or the install process. But the one thing that the non-DEP people have to do, I make it so part of the other scripting I did with the package to do the automated install is I said it has to be user temp setup. I want temp setup to be the user that exists because then I'll go delete that account at the back end so there's not an extra admin account laying around on this computer. And it's worked out pretty good for me. I already had one computer that one of my coworkers had in his trunk when he went to dinner up in the valley and came out and his trunk was open and his computer was gone. And then 2 weeks later, we get an email from somebody in South Korea. Hi, I've bought a brand new MacBook Pro that says you're in control of it. Every time he boots it, DEP says, boom, and then it starts doing the install stuff, and it takes him to this full screen app he doesn't know what to do with, and it's useless to him. So for the other ones, I didn't even want it to get to the point where it had the full screen install app or anything. It just would be stuck and sit there and wouldn't do anything for him. So I made him have to know the right username, essentially, to do that. But let's see, I don't know if you have to hit play. I've never done this in a live. All right, so this is the USB thing installing, and you know, if you turn it on and don't touch it, it'll run for 30 seconds, count down 30 seconds, and then it re-images the computer. And I never realized how much of a mirror that is. You get to see me moving really fast because I'm doing this at like 3,200 speed or something. This was my first foray into video editing too. So it's restoring the image from USB. This is really about a 6-minute process on a decent USB 3 drive. And then it verifies it, then it restores a recovery partition, and then verifies the recovery partition as well, and then it boots. And for some reason that computer is set to verbose mode. Somebody asked a question on Slack and I set my computer to verbose mode and forgot. So it boots, hopefully here pretty quick. And there's me and my nice mirror again. So they get to go through, and I add in the thing to add in language chooser because I have users all over the world. And then this is the DEP machine getting to the same place, I think. No, this is still the first one. Pick my country, take my time. Keyboard, blah, blah, blah. Don't sign into Apple. So the DEP won't have to do a couple of these extra screens because I turned them all off. And then here's me typing temp setup really quickly. And big secure password of the letter A. Count's not going to last for more than 20 minutes, so I don't really care. And there's my grandson. He decided to come help me make videos, the littlest one. And so when it gets here, it sits here for just a second. You get logged in, and then you could see the VMware agent appear, and up in the top of the screen, you can see the VMware agent icon showed up. And then boom, it logs that user out. It logs in as my Veritas help account. And you'll see my full screen and my grandson. Hi, Wyatt. Okay. Wow, that is such a good mirror. I miss the good old option of buying the matte finish screen. And then, so here's DEP. The difference between DEP, they get to choose language, they get to choose their keyboard and their customization. And I didn't have a wire plugged into this one, so I had to set up Wi-Fi. The other bonus about doing the full setup assistant on the other one is if it doesn't have a network, it'll set it all up. Now it says Veritas is going to automatically configure your computer. I click OK. It churns for a couple of minutes, sometimes longer, sometimes quicker. I move away from the center of the universe and go to Colorado. It's amazing how slow things are even at 3,200 times normal speed. And that bright light that my phone had on. And then it sticks at the login screen there for just a second, and then it goes straight to the setup. So this is an actual, I ran QuickTime movie capture on this so that it would be a little bit more clear and bigger on here. So my setup screen has 4 pictures that scroll through, and it says, hey, your Mac's going to be set up. Here's where you can go for some internal help. When it first starts up, my process says, hey, go out and check for iTunes updates, and always put on iTunes updates. If you see macOS updates, put those on. So if there is a macOS update and it needs to reboot after it, it'll reboot, and then I use a launch daemon to start this whole process up again. So it reboots, goes into VTOS help, boom, starts checking for more updates again, and it'll continue cycling through OS updates, Apple updates until it's done. I go out and get Office straight from Microsoft's CDN. So everybody gets it from somewhere close instead of having to get it from my internal site or whatever and download a 1.5 gig or whatever it is these days. It takes a little bit of time, even at 3200 speed. Then it gets done installing, and then I do a bunch of my security settings after that, and each step I knock off. So if the computer has to reboot, and I know I've already gotten through updates, then and then if it gets through doing Office, it says all the external packages are installed, so it won't do that a second time. Then it installs my VPN client, and a bunch of the settings you can't do through profiles, and it checks to get ready to bind the computer. We have a host name convention. So, it needs to look up the user out of LDAP. So it says, hey, connect to the VPN, because I'm remote. So it stops and asks. If it's an internal user, it just goes straight on through. I am fast at moving the mouse, aren't I? And then boom, it takes my username, looks my username up, creates the proper Mac username serial or user ID serial number combination, makes it be the host name, binds it to Active Directory, takes the username password, creates a mobile account. Once it's done with that, the password gets deleted off the computer. It's adding all the AD groups and setting printer permissions and all that kind of stuff for the group. And then it goes and it downloads software from my internal software site, because I didn't have an external place where I could put everything at that point when I was doing this previous image. Downloads the things that have to be there. So you could put in Monkey instead of doing software, and then let Monkey start downloading the software. And basically this whole front screen app is it's just a thing to prevent the user from getting into the computer and doing stupid things while I'm trying to set it up. And it's a place that has a status bar, and it's a place where I can write out messages to the users. So my Perl script in the background is updating the plist for that and just saying, here's what's happening, and updating the status bar so they got a general idea how long it's going to take. And it's doing the Pulse Secure update, so I have an update to what was built into the package that it goes out and gets at the back end. And it is actually done. At that point, it logs you out, so that's why the video ends. And you get to log in with your username. As soon as you log in with your username, AirWatch changes it from the staging user to the actual user of the computer, which then puts me into other groups, and it goes, oh, you might need this stuff now that you're a real user and you're not staging user. I tend to scope things to not staging, and then the only thing staging is scoped to is getting the SOE package. SOE, Standard Operating Environment, for you guys. But, oh, I should probably get that off there. But at any rate, just wanted to show that, there are other MDMs out there. We hear a lot more about Jamf. Jamf's a bigger deal. You hear more about a couple others, Adages here, and you just don't hear a whole lot about AirWatch. And not that I have, one way or the other, but my company chose AirWatch, so that's what we use, and they've been pretty responsive, and the product gets better. I also, as being part of an ex-Symantec company, we get to use Altiris to manage our Macs, which is wonderful. It hasn't gotten any better in the 8 years that I've had to use it, because I've been supporting Symantec since 2009. And you know, they do a couple little things here and there, but it's never gotten better. AirWatch has made more progress in 2 years than Symantec has with Altiris on Mac support in the last 8. So I am here for questions. If you got any questions. Yes, sir. Oh, he's gone, so. So for me, Wi-Fi or Ethernet at home, it takes me about 40 minutes. Guys in the office can get it done in 35 to 40 because they're a little closer and they got a higher bandwidth than I do at home. There's some guys in Australia in the office that it takes 2 hours. All their internet goes all the way up through Dallas before it gets back to them. So they've got more latency built into the whole process. So it can take up to 2 hours, but I've got people in South Africa, I've got people in Lebanon that do this, and it just works for the most part. There are a few of them that get stuck. It's amazing the number of machines. I was telling these guys the other day that the new machines I get in Brazil, they pull them out and they turn them on and they think it's December 31st, 2014. And then, you know, AirWatch enrollment doesn't work because the clock's off, so the mobile cert doesn't install because SSL's not correct, and you can't get them into WebEx. And as soon as I can't get them into WebEx and help them, I'm like, check the date and time on your computer. Okay, and how many times do I have to tell you that? All right. And it's the same guy every 3 weeks when they get a new Mac down there. This one won't work either. Check your date and time. Oh, got it. So, you know, but for the most part, really, I have 1,600 users. I am the only Mac guy whose job is Mac at Veritas. I have an HP service desk that answers phone calls, resets passwords, and does some level 1 type stuff. I probably get 1 ticket escalated to me a month, you know, out of the 1,600. I do have service desks or on-site guys in a few of the buildings that are called the Tech Stop. So you can walk in and say, hey, this isn't working, and they help you right away, or they re-image computers for users. But half of my users, at least, are completely and totally remote. And we've been re-imaging and doing basically this for the last 8 years with a lot of them, you know, with the Symantec, when it was Symantec and both. And it tends to work pretty well. You know, it's evolved over 8 years. My code's gotten bigger and it gets smaller. When I did this thing with the Xcode, it made things a whole lot better. It was a big, nasty bunch of stuff before, and now it's streamlined quite a bit when I had the chance to redo it all. So, any other questions? Try and make this one good and quick so you guys can get out and go racing cars. I don't think I'm going to get a race in a race car tonight. I don't know if I might get into it, but somebody will have to pick me up and get me out of it. So, is this way too short, or is it okay? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, so out of the box, in the countries that support that support DEP, not all my countries support DEP, not all my vendors are supportable for DEP, but the ones that are DEP out of the box, brand new, it's like the second part you saw. It opens up, it goes to the login screen, they choose their country, they choose their language, and then it says, Veritas is going to manage this computer.
So all of the stuff that follows beyond that is in...
Comes from AirWatch.
There you go. I'm
is in a profile essentially under
AirWatch? So in AirWatch, there's a, I suppose I could try and find it if I could get my mouse over there. There's a package, it's called the Bootstrap package. So that's a package I wrote that basically, like Greg does, it has an admin account in it, it has that help user that we log into in it, and it has the VPN software in it. So it's a 30 megabyte package, pretty small, downloads in like 10 seconds at my house and 5 minutes in Australia, but that package downloads, and the install application command sends that out through MDM as soon as enrollment finishes, tells that computer you must install this.
Okay.
And then when it gets done with Setup Assistant, it goes and it chews for just a couple seconds, which is when it's launching that application or installing that application. That application has the built-in user accounts, so I don't have to define any user accounts. I don't let the user define any accounts. And it starts that full screen install process. So.
Okay. And what do you use to create that Bootstrap package?
So to create the Bootstrap package, give me a second, I can show you.
That'd be great.
I can give you I'm a command line guy. I believe anybody who works on a Unix-based computer should know how to use VI. No, VI, because VI works on every version of Linux or Unix, but at any rate, I'm just trying to figure out my layout. Let me look at this display thing so I know where the heck my screens are. So it's to the right. I'm going to put it above so that it makes logical sense for what because I can see down there, I think. Nope. Oh, he changed all that. Okay. So if I go into this window and I do a new, I drag this up. Oh, that's not where that's supposed to be going. Where's desktop 1 at? I thought I just moved it above. How come I can't go above? Every time I try to go above, it goes into that stupid mode. Good Lord, give me a second, sorry. All right, we'll move it over here to the right. Where's my mouse? Where's the big mouse? All right. There we go. So if we go into my OneDrive and we go into my packaging folder and we go into my source folder and we go into vTools. So here's the SOE package. This is still this is so old it still uses Package Maker. So I'm converting things as I do them to the new, using the command line to package them. But this actually uses Package Maker, and I'm not sure this computer even has Package Maker, but we can look and see. Nope, it doesn't. So hence why I'm changing it. It's hard to find Package Maker these days. But essentially, well, let's look and see. Was it just a launch warning? It says opening, open. Good. I did put it on here. I just didn't pay attention that I put it on here. So in the old days, back in the dark ages, this would make you a distribution package, and it was from Apple. It's called Package Maker. And a lot of this goes based off of me having to support multiple customers when I worked for HP. So basically, my whole tool set just needs a Perl config file configured for all the tools to look at. So we set up this config file, says what packages to install, what order to install them in. Here's the packages I include. Pulse Secure, the configuration file for Pulse Secure, and a couple accounts that are local, and then the launch daemon itself. So besides that, in the pre-install, it installed the tools package so that all of this stuff can start up. So when it installs the SOE, it installs the tools first, then when the tools get there, then it knows how to run the install, the SOE installer, essentially. So is this something that you can sit down and do in 10 minutes flat? No. It took me probably 9 months to get the first version of, not 9 months, probably 3 months to get the first version of this that I deployed and got users up and going, and then it was probably a year before I was really happy with it, and then it's just been every time a new OS comes out, you improve and you do things that you've always wanted to fix. Today, if I was starting out, it would probably say, go get Chef and enroll into Chef, or go get Monkey and enroll into Monkey, and then Monkey's going to start shoving packages down. My tool set is kind of sort of like Chef and Monkey all put together, because there were things I needed to do that Jamf couldn't do, that LandRev couldn't do when I was using those. I had customers that said, we're not paying for a MDM, we only got 30 Macs, we just want you to make us an image. So I made them an image, they could install, you know, boom, and get up and going. It would bind to Active Directory. So I could work without any management system with this tool set, or we could work, you know, with any management system, because it's a package, and any of the management systems can deploy a package. Even SCCM would probably work with this. I never got the opportunity, I suppose you want to say, to test that and verify that, but I'm fairly certain it would work, because you just have to deploy the one package and everything would happen. So, you know, today you make your Bootstrap package with your account in it, connect to Monkey, and then Monkey delivers all the software, and you don't have to do that thinking that I had to do. And that's going to be a whole lot easier. Or, you know, if AirWatch makes it to where Monkey's built in, all you got to do is just do the Bootstrap, get it into AirWatch if that's your MDM, and it's going to start shoving the software down there from you configuring it inside of AirWatch. So, hence why any management platform should work with this methodology. You just got to get your base pieces in there that you want and have everything else on the back end do what it needs to do. And it really essentially makes the non-DEP machines behave just like the DEP machines. Couple extra setup screens. And if anybody wants to try it live, we can do that tomorrow. I'll be happy, or do it right now. I've got the USB stick and another computer. We can do it, and I can show you. And go through it slower. I'd be happy to talk about it. So, and reason you don't see a whole lot of open source stuff for me about this is I'm so old. I do things in Perl instead of, and nobody really wants to learn Perl instead of Python these days. So, you know, and it's all so intertwined into the other 15,000 lines of code. I've cut out the tidbits and shared the tidbits quite a bit, you know, how to actually do one specific thing. But it's hard to share this script because that script's so dependent on 10,000 lines of Perl module somewhere else that it makes it difficult. And the first 8 years I was doing this, I was trying to be HP selling it as a service, so we didn't really want to give it away at that point. And HP wouldn't let me give it away, so. But Veritas paid for HP to write them their own version of these tools. So that's how Veritas has their own version of these tools. So. And I kept trying to find somebody to go work for them, and they hired me instead. Worked out good for me. So we good? Anything else?
Questions? Shaking. There
Yes,
we go.
sir.
Hang on, Mike.
He's gonna bring you the microphone. Just a sec.
So I have a question about DEP. You might be able to answer this. Probably others could. DEP is kind of hard to get into initially, and they don't even tell you why it's so hard. And mostly you get stuck in trying to even understand why they're making this so hard. Can you just comment on that?
Yeah, so on one hand, they make it hard because you have ultimate godlike power over hardware once you get it. Just like the one that got stolen from me and is now in South Africa, and the guy boots it every 2 weeks. He does. I see it get a new, it re-registers itself in there, and he's still trying to use it. And the unfortunate problem is it's hard to send a lock command to it because he's in Seoul and I'm here, and so I'm not awake and I can't lock it when it comes online. I just noticed that it's only been offline for 2 days instead of 40. So you have a lot of power over the computer, right? I mean, and if you're going to resell devices, you got to unenroll them out of DEP, and you've got to do some work. And so I think Apple wants you to have some responsibility. You also have to be who you say you're going to be, you know, when you're doing that. So you have to get your DUNS number, and you have to prove, you know, get that sent off, and you have to have legal say, yes, this guy's allowed to do this on the behalf of our company. I mean, you could probably go out and fill it all out, but then, you know, your legal department could come back and nail you across too. So it's a very high level of power. It's just like being an Apple service provider, right? I mean, they don't just let anybody do it. You have to get vetted and get the rights to get into some of the tools and stuff like that. So it's a pain in the butt, but boy, I'm glad I got it.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you.